There is a belief running quietly through almost every professional and financial decision most people make, that integrity is expensive, that the person who refuses to cut corners, refuses to shade the truth, refuses to take the deal that compromises what they believe, that person pays a price. And the pragmatic, rational, financially sensible person accepts the occasional compromise as the cost of operating in the real world. This episode is a direct challenge to that belief, not a moral challenge, a financial one. His name was Socrates. He was given multiple opportunities to compromise. He refused everyone. He was executed for it. And the reputation he built through that refusal, the brand he created, in modern terms, has been generating returns for 2,400 years. Today we are going to go inside his life, his trial and his death, and build a financial case for integrity that has nothing to do with morality and everything to do with compounding. Socrates was born in Athens around 470 BC. His father was a stonemason. His mother was a midwife. He was, by material standards, a man of very modest means. He owned no property of significance, charged no fees for his teaching, and lived with a conspicuous simplicity that his contemporaries noted and occasionally mocked. But in terms of reputation, in terms of what we might today call personal brand, he was the most recognizable figure in Athens. The oracle at Delphi had declared him the wisest man in Greece. The most brilliant young men in the city sought his company. Political figures, military leaders, and wealthy merchants attended his conversations in the agora. He wrote nothing himself. Everything we know of his thought comes through others, primarily through Plato, his most devoted student, whose dialogues preserve the Socratic method with enough detail that reading them 2.5 millennia later still feels like being in the room. The Socratic method was simple in structure and devastating in application. Ask a question, listen carefully to the answer. Ask another question that reveals the assumption beneath the answer. Continue until the person either genuinely understands what they believe or discovers that what they thought they believed does not hold up under examination. He applied this method to everyone: politicians, generals, poets, craftsmen, and wealthy merchants. Nobody was exempt. And this, the relentless, respectful, completely fearless examination of received wisdom, was both the source of his extraordinary reputation and the reason Athens eventually put him on trial. That line was spoken at his trial, not as a philosophical observation, but as his defense. He was telling the jury that the thing they were asking him to stop doing was what made life worth living, and he meant it completely. In 5th century Athens, there was a thriving market for what we might today call professional development. The Sophists, a group of traveling teachers who charged substantial fees, offered instruction in rhetoric, argumentation, and the practical skills of political and commercial life. They were, by the standards of the era, extremely successful. Wealthy Athenian families paid handsomely to have their sons trained in the arts of persuasion. Socrates was repeatedly invited to join this market. His reputation was greater than almost any sophist's. He could have charged fees that would have made him wealthy. He refused. Not from indifference to money. The ancient sources suggest he was genuinely poor, and that this caused real hardship for his family. But from a clear and uncompromising understanding of what he was doing and what it required. The moment he charged for his wisdom, he reasoned, the wisdom changed. It became a product. The buyer had a claim on it. The teacher had an obligation to deliver what the buyer wanted, rather than what the buyer needed. And the thing Socrates was doing, the genuine, unflinching examination of what people believed, could not survive that transaction. It would become a performance of philosophy rather than the practice of it. So he did not charge. He remained poor, and his reputation built on the specific and verifiable quality of never compromising the thing he was offering became something that no fee-charging teacher in Athens could replicate. Let us be precise about what Socrates was building, in financial terms, through this refusal. A reputation is, at its core, a prediction. When someone chooses to engage with you as a professional, as a business, as an advisor, or as a partner, they are predicting what they will receive based on what they have observed or been told about your past behavior. The quality of that prediction, its reliability, and its accuracy determine the premium they are willing to pay and the loyalty they are willing to extend. A reputation built on consistent integrity is the most accurate predictor available, because the person of genuine integrity behaves the same way regardless of whether they are being observed, regardless of whether the compromise would be detected, regardless of whether the short-term cost of the refusal is high. The consistency is the product, and over time, consistency builds a reputation that is the most durable commercial asset. Socrates never charged a fee, but the most powerful men in Athens sought his counsel. He never sought political office, but political figures sought his approval. He never marketed himself, but his name, 2,500 years after his death, remains the most recognizable in the history of Western philosophy. The return on his integrity investment is incalculable, and it was built entirely through the consistent, daily, costly refusal to compromise the thing that made the reputation worth having. That intellectual honesty, the willingness to acknowledge the limits of his own knowledge rather than perform certainty, was itself a form of integrity, and it was commercially distinctive in a marketplace full of teachers who performed certainty as their primary product. The person who says, "I do not know," in a world where everyone claims to know, is, paradoxically, the most trustworthy person in the room. A reputation built on consistent integrity is the most accurate predictor available, and therefore the highest premium asset in any market. The consistency is the product. Compounded over the years, it builds something that no amount of marketing can replicate, and that no competitor can copy, because the only way to build it is actually to have it. In 399 BC, when Socrates was 70 years old, he was put on trial in Athens. The charges were impiety, failure to honor the city's gods, and corruption of the youth of Athens. The charges were, in the view of most modern historians, primarily political. Athens had recently lost a catastrophic war against Sparta. Several of Socrates' most prominent former students, including Alcibiades and Critias, had been associated with the oligarchic faction that had briefly and brutally seized power during Athens' weakness. The democratic faction that had restored order wanted a reckoning. Socrates, as the most prominent intellectual in the city, was a convenient target. He was not, in any straightforward sense, guilty of the charges as stated, but the jury of 501 citizens voted to convict by a relatively narrow margin, 280 to 221. And then came the sentencing phase, and 3 separate opportunities to survive. Under Athenian law, after a conviction, the defendant could propose a counter penalty. The prosecution had proposed death. Socrates could propose an alternative exile, a fine, anything that might persuade the jury to choose the lesser punishment. His friends urged him to propose exile. He had enough supporters that a generous exile offer, combined with genuine contrition, would almost certainly have been accepted. Instead, Socrates proposed that he be rewarded with free meals at public expense for the rest of his life, the honor granted to Olympic victors and military heroes, because, he said, that was what he genuinely deserved for the service he had provided to Athens. Then, under enormous pressure from his friends, he proposed a fine, a small one, only because his friends offered to pay it. He made clear he did not consider it appropriate. The jury, insulted, voted for death by a larger margin than the original conviction. From a purely tactical standpoint, this was catastrophic. From an integrity standpoint, it was entirely consistent. Socrates would not perform contrition he did not feel. He would not propose a penalty that implied guilt he did not accept. The compromise was available. He refused it. After the death sentence was pronounced, Socrates spent 30 days in prison, while Athens observed a sacred period during which executions were suspended. During those 30 days, his wealthy friend Crito arranged everything necessary for an escape. Guards were bribed, safe passage was arranged, a destination in another city was secured. Crito came to Socrates in his cell and presented the plan. It was completely viable. It would work. All Socrates had to do was agree. Socrates refused. His reasoning, as Plato records it in the dialogue Crito, was precise. He had spent his entire life arguing that citizens have obligations to the laws of their city, that you cannot benefit from the law when it serves you and reject it when it does not. To escape would be to act against everything he had ever taught. It would be to compromise the philosophy with his behavior at the moment his behavior mattered most. The escape was the ultimate test of whether what he had said was what he believed. He passed it in the most costly possible way. There was a third offer, less explicitly documented but present in the sources. The charges against Socrates could be dropped if he agreed to stop his philosophical activities and stop asking the questions that had made him dangerous to the political faction now in power. His response to this offer is preserved in the Apology, his defense speech at the trial. He said that even if they offered him acquittal on the condition that he stop philosophizing, he would refuse, because the examined life was not a hobby he could put down when it became inconvenient. It was the only life he recognized as worth living. 3 compromises, 3 refusals, and the financial implication of each refusal, which Socrates never articulated in commercial terms, but which is visible in what followed, is the same in every case. The reputation he was building required consistency to be complete. A partial integrity is not integrity. It is a negotiated performance that, when the negotiation is eventually visible, destroys the reputation it was supposed to preserve. A reputation for integrity is binary, not gradual. The person who maintains it in easy circumstances but compromises it when the cost is high has not built an integrity reputation. They have built a fair weather reputation. Socrates understood that every compromise, however justified, recalibrates what people predict about your future behavior. He refused all 3 because he understood that the value of the reputation depended entirely on its completeness. Socrates died in 399 BC. He was 70 years old. He drank hemlock in a prison cell in Athens, surrounded by his friends, talking philosophy to the end. In the immediate term, the financial consequences of his life choices were severe. He died poor. His family was not provided for. His refusal to compromise had cost him everything the material world could take. And then something happened that the people who executed him had not anticipated. His death made him immortal. Plato, his most brilliant student, was devastated by the execution. The injustice of it, the The spectacle of Athens killing the most honest man it had produced transformed Plato from a promising young philosopher into one of the most driven intellectuals in history. He founded the Academy. He spent the next 50 years writing the dialogues that preserved Socrates' method and extended his ideas into every domain of human knowledge. The Academy produced Aristotle. Aristotle's work shaped the intellectual framework of the Western world for 2,000 years. The Stoics drew on Socratic principles. The Christian philosophical tradition drew on Plato. The Renaissance drew on both. The Enlightenment drew on all three. The chain that runs from Socrates' death in a prison cell in Athens to the intellectual foundations of the modern world is not metaphorical. It is traceable, link by link, through documented intellectual history. And it was set in motion by the decision to refuse the compromise, to drink the hemlock rather than negotiate. The financial mechanism at work in Socrates' legacy is not different in kind from the mechanism at work in any long-term integrity investment. It is only different in scale. Integrity compounds because trust compounds. Every interaction in which you behave with integrity, in which you deliver what you promised, refuse what you should refuse, acknowledge what you do not know, and maintain your standards when maintaining them is costly, adds to the stock of trust that other people hold about your future behavior. That trust stock is what generates the premium. The client who pays more because they know they can rely on you. The partner who chooses you over a cheaper alternative because the reliability is worth the difference. The employer who promotes you over a more technically skilled colleague because they trust your judgment. The investor who backs your business because your track record of keeping your word makes the prediction straightforward. The premium is real. It compounds over time. And unlike almost every other financial asset, it has no natural ceiling. The more consistently it is maintained, the more valuable it becomes, because the rarity of complete integrity in any market means that its value increases as the market grows. Socrates charged nothing. His trust premium was unlimited. The people who charged the most, the sophists who sold their rhetoric for high fees, are footnotes. Socrates is the foundation. Contentment with what is genuinely enough, not as a performance of modesty, but as a genuine relationship with sufficiency, removes the financial pressure that causes most integrity compromises. The person who genuinely needs a large income to maintain their lifestyle is under constant pressure to compromise the things that threaten that income. The person whose needs are modest has the financial margin that makes integrity affordable. That margin is not incidental to the integrity. It is its precondition. Integrity compounds through trust. Every consistent, costly demonstration of integrity adds to the stock of trust that others hold about your future behavior. That trust stock generates a premium that increases over time, in any market, without a natural ceiling. The compounding mechanism is identical to financial compounding. Small, consistent deposits into a stock that generates returns proportional to its size. The compromises that Socrates refused were dramatic. A trial, a death sentence, hemlock. The compromises that most professionals face are not dramatic. They are small. They are unremarkable. They accumulate so gradually that the person making them rarely registers them as compromises at all. The report is framed to reach the conclusion the client wants, rather than the conclusion the data supports. The reference that overstates a colleague's qualifications because it is easier than giving an honest one. The fee is not disclosed because the disclosure would make the recommendation harder to sell. The conflict of interest is not mentioned because mentioning it would cost the deal. Each one, individually, seems trivial. Each one has a reasonable justification, and each one makes a small, invisible withdrawal from the trust stock that the career depends on. The Socratic examination of your professional life is not a moral exercise. It is a financial one. It asks, what is the current state of your integrity capital? Where has it been deposited consistently? Where has it been withdrawn? And what is the current balance that other people would predict about your future behavior based on everything they have observed? Socrates' method was the examined life. Applied to financial and professional integrity, it produces 4 specific questions worth sitting with honestly. Question 1. The consistency question. Do you behave the same way when you are being observed as when you are not? The person whose integrity is dependent on observation does not have integrity capital. They have a performance that will eventually be revealed as such. Integrity compounds only when the behavior is genuinely consistent, regardless of the audience. Question 2. The costly commitment question. Think of the last time maintaining your integrity cost you something real. A client, a deal, a promotion, a relationship. Did you maintain it? The answer to that question is more revealing than any number of comfortable commitments. Integrity that has never been tested has no market value because no one knows whether it will hold when it matters. Question 3. The disclosure question. Is there anything in your professional life that you are not disclosing that, if disclosed, would change how people engage with you? The Socratic examination does not allow comfortable ambiguity. The undisclosed conflict of interest, the overstated credential, and the result that was not quite as described. Each one is a withdrawal from the trust stock, regardless of whether it has been detected. Question 4. The sufficiency question. Is your financial life structured in a way that makes integrity affordable? The person under extreme financial pressure, who genuinely cannot afford to lose a client, refuse a deal, or maintain a position that costs them income, cannot build integrity capital, however much they want to. The margin that makes integrity affordable is not a luxury. It is the financial precondition of the most valuable professional asset you can own. The busy life that has no time to examine itself, the professional is so consumed by the activity of earning that they never ask whether the earnings are serving what they value, which is not building integrity capital. It is depleting it, invisibly, through the accumulation of small compromises that each seemed reasonable in the moment and collectively. The integrity audit is a financial exercise, not a moral one. It asks, what is the current state of your trust capital? Where has it been deposited? And where has it been withdrawn? And is your financial life structured in a way that makes integrity affordable, that gives you the margin to refuse the deal, lose the client, and maintain the position that costs you in the short term, but compounds the reputation that is worth more than any single transaction? And the brand he built through 70 years of consistent, costly, completely uncompromised integrity has generated returns for 2,400 years. I am not suggesting you need to drink hemlock to build a reputation. I am suggesting that the mechanism Socrates demonstrated is the same mechanism available to every professional in every era, and that the financial return on genuine, consistent integrity is higher over a career, over a life, than almost any other investment you can make. 4 questions from the integrity audit. Take them with you. 1. Do you behave the same when you are not being observed as when you are? That consistency is the deposit. Every time the answer is yes, the trust stock grows. 2. When did maintaining your integrity last cost you something real? If you cannot remember, either your integrity has not been tested yet, or you have been making the compromises without registering them. Both are worth examining. 3. Is there anything you are not disclosing that would change how people engage with you? This question, asked regularly, prevents the accumulation of small withdrawals that eventually bankrupt the trust account. 4. Is your financial life structured to make integrity affordable? The margin that allows you to refuse, to decline, to maintain your position at cost is the financial precondition of the most valuable professional reputation you can build. Socrates said the unexamined life is not worth living. I think what he meant, at least in part, is that the unexamined life cannot be genuinely known. The person who does not examine their choices does not know what they believe. The person who does not know what they believe cannot be consistently true to it. And the person who cannot be consistently true to what they believe cannot build the trust capital that genuine integrity compounds into. Examine life, build the capital, refuse the compromise. That is the price of integrity, and it is the highest returning investment you will ever make. Subscribe to Disciplined Wealth. Share this with someone who has been told that integrity is a luxury they cannot afford. And tell me in the comments when maintaining your integrity last cost you something. I will see you in the next episode.